Welcome to Future Ready with Bechtle, the podcast where we explore the technologies, ideas and strategies that are shaping tomorrow's workplace. Each episode we'll bring together thought leaders, innovators and industry experts from within Bechtle to discuss how organisations can adapt, grow and thrive in a world defined by constant change. From AI to cloud, cybersecurity and sustainability and on to the modern workplace, we'll help you cut through the noise and get future ready. Welcome to the Bechtle Future Ready podcast. I'm Steve Harley. I'm here joined today by Connor Slasberg, who is Head of Service Pre-Sales. Connor, we're here today. No, we didn't get that wrong earlier.
No, definitely not.
Definitely didn't forget your job title, Connor. How could I forget that?
How could you?
But seriously, we're here today to talk about co-managed services, managed services, and how that's impacting the world of IT. Connor, do you feel when we talk about this, are partners or customers really looking to partner or looking to outsource? Or what's that dynamic like?
It's a good question. I think I'm of the belief that when it comes to managed services, partnership is key. It can't be a reactive supplier-customer relationship. Without that engagement, you need to be involved in the business. You need to understand the business objectives. You need to have those close relationships because ultimately, look, managed services, you are keeping the lights on of the organisation. You know, if they were to suffer a breach of any kind, you're responsible for making sure that that business continues. So being really closely knit with an organisation, I think, for a managed service is fundamental. There's an education piece for some customers about why it's so important. But I think generally most people understand that you need to, when choosing a managed service provider, pick someone away from service desk numbers, amount of engineers, etc. It's about what organisation understands us, understands where we want to go to, what we need to do to get there. And you can cultivate a relationship where ultimately, look, when we're having conversations with customers, we sometimes need to hold them to account as well. You know, we need to have challenging conversations and put across in the right way what an organisation needs to be doing. Again, that's not something you can do in a traditional supplier-customer relationship. So all of that stuff's really important. I think partnership is absolutely critical when it comes to managed services to making sure it works and it delivers for a customer. And at the end of it, we can look back and go, this is where we started. This is where we are now. Look at that journey we've got on. Look at the great stuff that we've achieved. Look at how secure we are now, how much more productive we are. You can't do that without being a true partner to a customer. What do you think?
Yeah, well, from my experience, where companies get the most value out of their IT partnerships, particularly managed services and co-services, is when they have that partnership ethos rather than just taking a ticket resolving service, as it were. If your partner's got that understanding of the business and you've got that openness backwards and forwards, you can really understand what people are trying to achieve, and then you can tailor what you're delivering. So I really think that you have to go into these relationships with that mindset if you're going to get the most out of it.
The reason people choose to work with a managed service partner is you might have a very talented internal IT team and some very experienced people, but that team only knows what it knows. They want to be challenged, want to be challenged on the ways of thinking. What's the way we need to take our business? Are we doing things in the right way today? Partnership's critical. You've got to have a relationship where you can sit down and have a frank and honest conversation about what's working in what you're doing, what's not necessarily working, what do we need to tweak. So I think partnership is the undertone of everything that works in a managed service. You're absolutely right. You do have support agreements where we just do tickets, and you know there's nothing wrong with that. But on a full managed service, that partnership piece is critical to that adding value to the customer.
No, absolutely. Can you recall a specific instance where having that partnership's been able to really transform a customer's organisation?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it was one of the first managed services we did in the old ACS days when I joined. We one of our customers had been with their existing partner for a good while. Probably skipped a generation in terms of technology refresh. So we came in at a point where kit was very aged. And we did a full transformation of their IT. So end user devices, core infrastructure with a managed wrap around all of that and end user support. I remember the first conversations with the customer, you know, a lot of technology terminology was over their heads, didn't really have an understanding of it, or I suppose an understanding of the value that the right technology could bring to the business. And it was in an industry where that technology piece is absolutely prominent in terms of attracting talent. We went through that change in a challenging time. We actually did the infrastructure refresh and and some of the cloud work during COVID, which had presented
Always
challenges.
fun, yeah.
Exactly that. I remember getting my hands dirty on switching out some of the laptops literally 2 days before the country went into lockdown. So that was fun. But then we started to see that kind of increased user engagement. But the thing that I took a lot of satisfaction from was the people that we engage with, the managing partner and the rest of the team. They started to come to us with ideas around how technology could work within their business and started exploring new technologies they wanted to introduce. And I took a lot of satisfaction from that, because if we look at that first conversation where maybe the value of technology wasn't understood, to then a year down the line, have them being thought leaders in what could work for our business, that was really satisfying. And you could see in terms of the feedback we got, the user engagement, that there'd been a real mindset change, within that business. So absolutely. And we've seen it with other customers, but that one always sticks out in my head of that's what a managed service should be when it works well. It enables and changes a business. So yeah, take a lot of good memories from that one.
And do you think that part of that is because you've got the metrics and the transparency around what's happening within your IT and able to have a partner communicate that to you? Does that enable that change?
Yes. And transparency is an interesting point. So I believe you've got to have that transparency with your customers to be able to truly understand what areas need improving around IT. Again, it goes back to the partnership piece of being able to have those frank and honest conversations about where things are.
That's really interesting, Connor. Thinking about kind of the trends that we're seeing in the MSP world at the moment, co-managed service, co-service is a huge one. Why do you think that is?
I think businesses are looking to optimize where possible. There's an element of cost efficiency in terms of how they look after their organizations. We've recently been doing quite a bit of enablement with our sales teams around managed services and why customers would look for it. And I think the statistic off the top of my head, so don't take this verbatim, but around 70% of UK organizations are outsourcing a function or en masse their IT services. Oh, wow. And then the stat beyond that was another 30% of organizations, of the ones that don't, are looking to leverage outsourced services. So there's a real push to it, but there's also that measure of what's better for us, having an internal IT team, outsourcing, finding a blend. So I think that co-managed piece is born from that. I think it's businesses going, well, we've got a great internal skill set, but also there's so many new technologies coming out. We can't be expected to be experts in all of them. We don't have the time to manage all of them. So where can we find efficiency? Where can we put certain functions of the business to a partner who knows that technology inside out, who can optimize that technology for us so we can focus on our day-to-day or focus on our bigger picture stuff. So I think that co-managed piece, we're seeing a lot of traffic go in that direction. We're trying to build out our offerings to speak to that and have that more modular style of managed service. There is still a place for full outsourced. Absolutely. Irrelevant as a size of business, there is still a place for that. But I think the future is definitely seeing how can an external skill set complement our internal skill set. So yeah, definitely seeing a lot more of that traffic.
If your Microsoft CSP licensing is coming up for renewal in Q1 next year, like so many other businesses, and you want to make sure that you're getting the right licensing, the right value, and you're not spending too much on Azure, reach out and engage with the software and cloud teams here at Bechtle UK. We can make sure that your spend is aligned and giving you the right results. And I mean, that's really interesting, particularly those statistics around the number of businesses that are actually looking at either already outsourcing an element of their service or looking to do so. You know, that's quite dramatic. I mean, I should imagine from an internal IT team, you know, that reaction to that, what's that been like? You know, does it change once it's actually in practice? Yeah. Because that can be quite challenging for an organisation.
It can, and look, when you hear outsourcing within an IT team, I suppose it can raise concern. People think, oh, well, they're coming for my job. If they're coming in to, you know, replace this function, what next? What else do they end up taking on? We keep going back to it. Partnership. It's where it's so critical, because you need to engage with those teams and understand what are their challenges, what are the things they're doing that they don't want to be doing, that they feel distract them from their workload. Outsourcing, and especially co-managed, it's not about replacing, it's about complementing. It's about helping an internal IT team deliver what they need to for their users, keep them happy, and make them look good within the business as well. Because ultimately, one of the things I'm really conscious of whenever we're working with a customer in terms of any form of managed service, to end users, it's IT. It's all one and the same. So if the managed service doesn't perform as it needs to, yes, they'll know who's working with them on it, but they'll be thinking, well, our IT doesn't work. And then that directly reflects on the internal IT team, the head of IT, whatever team structure that might be. So it's really important to understand what those drains are on their time and communicate with those teams to understand how we can help them and complement them. And just give that confidence and engage and make sure it doesn't come across as just this faceless piece that's coming to take away their jobs. That engagement piece is so important early on in that relationship to make sure there's a positive perception of that.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I think particularly when I've seen organisations look at co-sourcing services, and you know, we have a phrase, tactical managed services, that deal with certain areas. I mean, there's very much two different tactics that people use when they come into it. Either they've got a team that's young and growing and needs to gain experience, and so the co-service becomes the backstop. You know, the people that we go to when we're really stuck. You know, when there's a real issue, and that can be useful, particularly when you've got teams that are growing in skill and finding their feet and embedding, because it gives them a safety valve, right? So it gives them that safety blanket so they can grow and they can develop. The other element is perhaps where you've got an established, very experienced team that knows the business really, really well, and you want to take the noise out of the organisation. So see both of those. I think perhaps where it's most interesting though is where you alluded to it earlier, where it complements that skill. So when you've got new technology and new change, where you can layer in and you can learn alongside your partner. And if you've got that, then what you're simultaneously doing is upskilling your team, giving them the tools that they need to manage new systems, new ways of working, new processes. I'm desperately trying not to say AI, right? but
it's your favourite word. It's your favourite word.
Absolutely. But it's a really good example of a technology that's very disruptive, and then necessarily internal teams are looking for the knowledge to be able to deploy and control and deliver that, where a partner can come in. When you see that has big value as well. So I suppose what I would say to people looking at it is that there is no one way of doing co-services and co-managed services.
Absolutely.
It's got to be bespoke.
It's got to be bespoke. And I think there's one thing that you almost alighted upon there, which is an interesting point as well. It's co-managed services can, from a reactive perspective, help fill a gap. And that's often where we see the requirements. So you mentioned there about some kind of more first line focus, some are more third line. We get a lot of inquiries come through where, right, we've just lost our head of IT, or we've just lost two of our level ones, and we've now got a massive traffic that we don't have the capacity to deal with. Everyone's tearing their hair out. What can we do? That's where those co-managed services can help, that scalability, that agility. I don't like using the term plugging gaps, but you get what I mean. It allows a business to carry on that function without seeing a real degradation of service. And that's definitely where a lot of traffic can come from, and we've seen some good wins recently in terms of bolstering a team in a time of need. And then from that point on, it's about having the flexibility of service to go, great, we've weathered that storm. What does the shape of that service look like now? Now that we're in a better place, how can we continue to look at outsourced services to further complement what we do and help us on that journey of growth or agility? You know, so I think that's a really important point to mention around the co-managed.
You know, that's a really good thing, because when we talked about the practical aspects of when we're looking out to look at these services from a CIO's perspective, when we start thinking about that, picking the right partner becomes really important.
Absolutely.
You know, I believe that you need a partner that's got a range of different services that can deal with the first, second line and the commoditized ticket element of it, that can deliver professional services in at infrastructure and detail level. But you mentioned there that head of IT, Miss. if that partner has a facility to be able to do that virtual CIO, that virtual IT director, that virtual head of IT, that senior appointment piece as well.
Yeah.
Because often what you see when you've got an established head of IT, they might often fill both third line and leadership bridge to board roles, and that's a different skill set again. So when we've got that kind of change, when we're looking for that sort of partner, you want that depth at every level, I would say.
Yeah, and when we talk about the partner thing as well, I think another element of that is flexibility is really important. What you agree to in terms of a support provision on day one, if you're entering a 2 or 3 year agreement, technology moves fast. We've seen that with AI in recent times. You've got to have a partnership where you allow for some level of flexibility, because your business could look very different 3 years on from when you first signed that support agreement.
Very true.
You've got to have someone who's willing to bend and change with your business and have a level of flexibility in what that provision is. And again, when you're talking about those kind of virtual CIO roles, they're really important to help the business understand, well, what does that change journey look like? This is the thing though with the managed services. There's so many shapes and forms in which it can come in. It's about understanding from the outset, what components do we need of a managed service and what partner is going to work with us to help us understand that and go on that journey with us. They're both really important components of that.
Yeah, when you were speaking there, I was just reflecting and thinking back at, one of the areas where too often people don't give enough credence to is the certification for the partner relationships, and I come at that too as because we are in an industry which has lots and lots of providers out there with many people who've got logos that they can turn around and say, we're a Microsoft Gold or Dell Titanium or whatever it may be, partnership there. But I suppose it's not just the skill sets that those partnerships demonstrate, but also the pull of that organization.
Yeah.
We are dealing with situations where we're talking about some of the largest companies in the world are the major vendors that our businesses are all dependent upon. Yeah. And if we can consolidate some of the buying power by having that right partner that can get us that higher level of intention, I think that's got a role to play as well.
I'd say so. And I think that side of it's important. But again, when we go back to that partnership bit, customers need to understand what we can leverage in terms of those relationships and the tools that sit in place. But when we're talking about managed service and being embedded within their organisation, that stuff is great. Their concern is, who are the consultants and who are the specialists that are sat in front of me to help me understand which of these technologies is best, which of these vendors suits me best, how does that work within our business? It's that personal element that sits in front of it that brings that to life. You've got to remember as well,
it's trust.
It's trust. I remember when I first started working for ACS before we then became Bechtle, and I'd worked in telecoms before, moved into IT with very little experience on it. And I remember quite naively now looking back thinking, well, every conversation I'm going to have is going to be with an IT manager who's got a great level of technical knowledge, and I'm going to have to really battle up to get to that point. That's not always the case. There's still a lot of businesses where it's a non-IT person that makes these decisions. So that trust piece, and also taking something technology-driven, highly technical, and putting it into a consumable wording, that bit's just as important as the technology to help someone make the right decision. So that for me is where I see it. Solutions are great, the hardware, the technology we can offer, the software, but who's that layer in between that provision and our customer to make sure right decisions are made, it's implemented in the right way, and it serves the customer. That bit's really important.
It's really absolutely key, that trust piece, and having that. I mean, these are fundamental decisions about some of the more expensive investments that we'll make in a business. They are a key to our processes and to how we move forwards as an organisation. Having the trust that we're getting the right advice and we're making the right decisions and negotiating the right deals is really important. We see it in the press. We see organisations ending up in litigation where that trust has broken down, or it hasn't resulted in the right advice and the right end goal for the organisation.
But this is where the the transparency piece is critical. So you've got to have trust. You've got to have honest conversations, and you've got to be transparent with the information you understand about that customer. And that's why the data feed into it is so important to help you make the right decisions in that space. So it's a perfect example of that. I always look at, when I used to have conversations with customers about backup, in terms of backup, it's not for the customer to understand the technical aspects of how do we deliver a backup service, but it's our responsibility to make sure that customer understands the key things around, okay, what's our restore point objective? How far back are we going so that we would lose data? The restore time objective, how quickly could we spin up in the event of losing our business? Those bits are the really critical bits to, again, support that partnership and make sure we're enabling our customers. Too often, I think you can ask questions to potential customer of ours around these things, and they go, we don't know the answer. And I think there's some people try to expect their customers to be technical and understand that information, when really it's just about making sure they understand the key parts so they can effectively plan their business, they can protect their organisation. That all comes off the back of that transparency with data and making sure that we're making it consumable to a customer what we're seeing and helping them understand the risks and the needs. That's really important.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. And I suppose just to close out our session today, if you were if you could give one piece of advice to a CEO or business leader that's skeptical about this sort of co-service, managed service relationship, what would that be?
I think take the time to really understand your IT environment, your function, your team today. Understand where there could be potential efficiencies. What are the challenge areas for us at the minute? What are the technologies we're looking to move into? And then work with partners that will help you understand what solutions do we need, that will take it from that seed of we're considering looking at co-managed or outsourcing, map it out against their business as it sits today, and help them come to a conclusion. That partner bit is really critical from the outset, because you need to work with people who are going to help you get to a place you need to be. Trust their wording. That side of it's really important. I still do when we have these conversations today around managed service. I'll get a whiteboard out. I will map every part of that business's IT, and then we'll go, great, we could help in this part. We can help in that part. Maybe in a couple of years' time, that's somewhere else we can help as well. But you need to work with the right partners who are going to help you on that journey. So I think that's it for me. Assess where you are today, and then make sure that you're engaging with people that are potentially a strong partner of choice.
Speaking your language.
Yeah, speaking your language. My view is that sometimes people focus on the fact that what do we need rather than who do we need to work with. And then that can lead to potentially some decisions that might not be great around the partner we end with. So I think partner first, find the right people, the technology, the solution we can sort out once we know we're with people that have got our best interests at heart and understand our business. So partner first, that would be my recommendation.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Connor. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you.
No, it's been good. Thank you.
Have a lovely day.